Hey everybody, welcome to the advice stream. Oh my gosh, what am I doing today? Welcome to the advice stream. I'm Jeremy International. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch. There's audio that I didn't mute. There we go. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. If you are listening and would like to participate, you can use the chat. Get a load of this on any of those places. I'm everywhere. I am become the internet. I am everywhere that you would like to watch. Those are, and my audio is still not muted. What am I doing? There we go. Am I muted on Twitch? I'm muted on Twitch. Where was I? We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch. If you are out there, just say hi. Say, hey, Start Rec. We got a person in the chat already. Thanks for participating. Start Rec is on Twitch, and they have said happy Monday. And you know what? It's a pretty happy Monday. I'm gonna say, I don't have a job, so Monday is just any other day to me. He says as he pours himself a second glass of wine. I've been eating some wasabi peas. We'll go ahead and say that this is the unofficial sponsor of this episode of the advice stream, and this is hot wasabi flavored peas. Can you see those? You can probably get these anywhere, and they're good. It's probably horseradish with green food coloring, but that's okay. Does it say on the ingredients? Does it say on the ingredients? Green peas, glutinous rice flour, wheat flour, horseradish, there you go, palm oil, sugar, sunflower oil, salt, FD and C yellow number 5, FD and C blue number 1. Well, you mix blue and yellow together and you get green. So that's how they did it. Spoiler alert. It's horseradish and food coloring. But there's nothing wrong with good old fashioned. There's nothing wrong with good old fashioned horseradish, right? I like it, and so do you. Starrex says that'll clean you out good. It does. I mean, I didn't eat a whole lot of them. I think I had a reasonable amount. I'm not anticipating any sort of gastrointestinal distress. I certainly hope not. Once again, everybody, we are just getting started tonight. This is the advice stream. I'm Jeremy International. YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Say hello if you're watching on any of those places. If you're new to the show, this is how it works. I'm going to play a video game for an hour. During that time, ask me questions. I'll do my best to give you advice. I think I've got some pretty solid credentials. I've been around the block a few times. I got some city miles on me, so I bet you I probably can help you out. I can give you some advice. If no one has any, I have some questions I've stolen from the internet that we can talk about. In the second hour, I'm going to have a special guest, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And me and the special guest will also do our best. We're going to chit chat. We're going to hang out. I only have the best people as my second hour guest. And we'll hang out, and hopefully we'll get some questions from you, the listening audience, there as well. If you wanted to put a question in the chat, just go for it, and I'll get it right away. If you would prefer, you can go to JeremyInternational.com, spelled like it sounds, no dots or spaces. And there's a contact form that you can use thereon to send me a message anonymously, and I will not say your name. I did that once, but I will never do it again. It's been a few weeks now, and I haven't done that kind of mistake in the past. You can also just not put any contact information in there. Last week we had a question, and the email address was no@no.no. So it obviously doesn't have to be a real one, although if you wanted to put a real email address, I might shoot you a reminder to check out the show in the future. I might not, who knows? I have the ability to do that. Also at Jeremy International, you can leave tips if you'd like. Now, I don't usually make a big deal about it. No one's ever given me a tip before, and that is fine. I do want to say that I am unemployed, and I got big dreams. So if you wanted to throw a couple bucks in there, you can use Venmo, you can use PayPal. They're easy to use links at JeremyInternational.com. You should be able to find them in a easy, straightforward manner. But if you don't, that's cool. I know a lot of folks are having money woes these days. I can relate to that for sure. Cheers. I'm drinking tonight, by the way, a very nice Kirkland Signature Pinot Grigio. Kirkland Signature. This is, the house brand from Costco, if you're familiar. It was cheap, and it's not bad. Cheers to you, Start Rec. Thank you. Thank you. L'chaim, good to your health. Live forever if you want to. I'm going to hold off on the wasabi piece, first off, because I think I've had enough. And secondly, people don't like a crunchy medium, in the live stream capacity. I don't think anyone wants to hear me crunching. And if you do, let me know. Maybe that'll be another show. So last week, if you missed last week's episode, and by the way, every episode of the Advice Stream with Jeremy International is available at JeremyInternational.com in perpetuity, as far as I understand. So if you miss an episode, you can always go back and watch it again later. We had a good time last week. We decided, I was going to say finish up, but we really gave up, which is different, on Out of This World for the Sega Genesis. And I had a recommendation from someone in the audience to play Streets of Rage 2. And I said yes to that. And then mere moments ago, I went into my video game vault. And remember, if you have heard the show before, we only play games from my physical video game collection. I have a vast video game collection, and we're only playing games from my collection. I have to own a physical copy. And I don't have a copy of Streets of Rage 2. Oops. I have a copy of Streets of Rage 1. And it's not super complete. I have the original case, no manual or anything else. I'm hardcore, so for me to say something's really complete, it's got to have the warranty card in there or any posters. A lot of these games had posters. I don't have Streets of Rage 2. I only have Streets of Rage 1. I should have consulted my database. I have a vast database of my library, and I just thought my brain was more reliable than the database, and it turned out that was not correct. Let's take a little loop around the horn. I see I got 2 folks watching on the Twitch. I've got no one on the Facebooks, which is fine. It's early. We're just getting started. Starrec says, I was asked to tell you have a Mighty Adams apple. I've heard that before. It's true, I do. Thank you for making me self-conscious about. I'm not self-conscious about it. Everybody's got their own anatomy situation. I've definitely been commented on my Adam's apple before. I don't think I have a particularly deep voice, though, do I? I don't know. But anyways, I was asked to tell you that. Mighty is good. Thank you, StartRec. Wow, I wonder who asked StartRec to tell me that. You don't have to say, you don't have to answer that question if you don't want to. What I was saying, though, is so all of the promotion for this particular stream has said Streets of Rage 2. And I talked about it last week, but I apologize that we will. His name is Turdy Tony. Turdy Tony. I don't know what that means. I just lost. Am I not on Facebook now? I just lost my Facebook feed. It's still going. Turdy Tony. Well, thanks, Turdy Tony, for acknowledging my Adam's apple, which I have one. Do we have anyone on the YouTubes? How do you tell how many people are watching on YouTube? I don't see a number, so I'm assuming it's 0. If you're out there and you're watching on whatever streaming service of your preferences, I just lost somebody on Twitch, then I'm sorry, I'm just distracted by the name Turdy Tony. I hope Tony's not really turdy, because you should see a doctor. That's my advice to you, Turdy Tony, is if it's not just a clever name, then see a doctor, see a medical professional. Jeez. All right. So it seems like all the action is 2 people. And thanks for coming is on Twitch. What I was going to say is if you're watching this on any medium that gives you like a thumbs up or a click to subscribe or whatever, you should do that. If you don't mind, please. I mean, if you're enjoying the show, if you don't like it, then use the thumbs down. I value your feedback. But we're going to go ahead and get started on Streets of Rage 1. Now, I would love to play Streets of Rage 2. Like I said, I don't own it. Thought I did. And maybe, someone out there has an extra copy and they want to send it to me, let me know. I'm not going to just volunteer my street address, but we can have a talk offline. If I get money for this particular broadcast of any amount, I promise I will put it towards a copy of Streets of Rage 2. I'll give you that guarantee. I said I was going to play it. I promised everyone that would be the game tonight. I'm not able to deliver, but if you want to, I don't even know how much that goes for. I can buy it loose. I don't need a complete copy. I don't know what the street value is on Streets of Rage 2. But we'll play it someday when I own it. I gotta get a job first, or this needs to pay me a massive amount of money. All right, so we are gonna, and also just as a reminder, I am, as with all of my Sega Genesis games, I am playing this on a device called a Mega SG from Pocket. If anyone from Pocket is listening, I will promote your products. They are wonderful. I have not everything, but almost everything you've ever made, and I've only ever been impressed. You can see their cool logo on the screen over there for Analog's Mega SG. I believe they just stopped making these, so if you don't got one, then you're not gonna get one, and I'm sorry for you. But let's play some Streets of Rage. 1, Streets of Rage Uno, for a little bit and see how it goes. I was goofing around with this before because I wanted to make sure that it loads. Sega! And it sure looks great. Man, Sega was always just beautiful. Now, I don't read text, in case you don't remember. I don't read text from games. If you want to read this text, then you can pause and read it on your own. I think it's silly when people read, unless it's like really essential to the game. I can tell you that this, I don't believe is. Why are these streets filled with rage? That's a good question. I believe we have a character selection screen coming up. And I think we're going to play this for a bit. And I'm sure I'm going to have to start over a lot because I'm not good at video games in general. So we'll try out all the characters. We're going to start with Adam. Sex, yes, please. Age 23, boy. Ex-cop. How long was he a cop for? He's 23 years old. Also, Blaze Fielding is 21 and also an ex-cop. Were they a cop for like 6 months? Jeez. Can you guys hear the sound from the game okay? Let me increase that a little bit. Let me know if that's too loud. It's pretty good. Pretty good though, right? Okay, start. Starrex says, ex-cops are the only exceptions to ACAB. Because I guess they're not cops anymore. I guess it depends on why they're not a cop anymore. What if they got like kicked off because of what they did? Then maybe it still counts. If you're not familiar with abbreviations in the 21st century, ACAB means all cops are bears, is what I'm gonna say. I was at a Build-A-Bear workshop the other day. By the way, when you say I was at a Build-A-Bear workshop, it sounds like you were doing like, I don't know, like you were dancing or you were learning how to do puppetry or something. I was at a Build-A-Bear workshop. I did not learn how to build a bear. That's not what they do there. And they had so many cop cop outfits for the Bears, which I thought was take that. I thought was strange. Oh, I walked right into that one. See, this is my strategy with brawlers like this, is you get airborne. You spend a lot of time in the air. That's what I do. If you're listening and you're not like a video game person, this type of game is called, generally speaking, a brawler, because you just kind of walk around and it's a lot of like button smashing. Sometimes they got combos so that you're brawling, you're beating up the bad guys. I really like this genre of video game. I don't play a lot of them, but when I think of this type, boy, that guy's really into sliding. He's a slidey boy. I wonder if he's dressed like yellow because he's like a banana peel and you slip and slide. My favorite brawler style video game of all time, I would say, is the old X-Men arcade game. Is anybody old enough to remember that one? Classic, such a good game. Love that game. I've spent many a quarter. The old Simpsons one too is like 4-player arcade cabinet, you know. That's a good one. I like that game very much. While I'm playing here, just reminding everybody that this is the advice stream. So at some point, I would like to have some advice from people. We're gonna play for a little bit. I got some questions set aside. Our special guest in the second hour is journalist and podcaster, good friend, my personal dungeon master, Jared Rizzi, will be joining us. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to have a good time. Jared is one of my favorite people. He's a delightful guy. He's smart. He's funny. He just projects a level of kindness that I think is unfortunately rare in humanity these days. And can't say enough great things about this dude. And he's going to join us, and we'll see what happens. We'll talk about whatever we want to talk about. He's a recent dad as well. So I'm sure we'll talk about dad stuff, which is always one of my favorite topics. Kick you. Yeah. At the time of this live stream, the Academy Awards were last night. I did not watch. I usually don't. I think award shows are kind of dumb. But I'm really surprised that Everything Everywhere at Once won Best Picture. Love that movie. I'm not saying anything bad about that movie. It's just such a different kind of movie, I think, from what usually wins that type of award. But if we're talking about kind of like martial artsy stuff, you know, Michelle Yeoh's in that movie. She won Best Actress. I saw a movie recently she was in a long time ago, must have been in the 80s. She's very, very young, called Yes, Madam, and it's got some of the best... Oh, whips. No, thank you. I did not consent to that. It's got some really amazing martial artsy stuff in it. I think it's streaming on the Criterion channel this month, but it's not how I watched it. But if you get a chance to watch, it's silly. It's not like a great movie. I'm gonna not lie to you now and say that there were a couple parts in that watch through of that movie, Yes, Madam, with Michelle Yeoh, where I kind of skipped ahead a little bit to get to the fight scenes. But man, those fight scenes are amazing. What a immensely talented performer Michelle Yeoh is. Physically, acting wise, she's terrific in that movie. And you should watch it. I have no idea what year it is. I watched it with subtitles. I think it's a Hong Kong movie, but I watched it with subtitles, and it's a little clunky as a movie, but boy, there's some great action scenes. Sorry that I had to kick you in the face, Whip Lady. I wish you the best of luck in whatever you're into. Ooh. Also, the reason that I said I was gonna play Streets of Rage 2 last week is because someone in the chat had said that the music was really great, and I'm sure that it is, but here we are with Streets of Rage 1, and it is also is music is pretty great. Take that, striped shirt man, boomerang soldier. I'm having a good time. This is a good game. I should play more brawlers like this. If you're just joining the show, let me know if the game volume's too high, everybody. This is the advice stream. I'm Jeremy International. We're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitch. We are playing Streets of Rage 1 on the Sega Genesis for an hour. We'll have a special guest, journalist, former White House press correspondent from SiriusXM Radio, podcaster Jared Rizzi. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff in the next hour. This hour is, we're kind of easing into the night. So I'm doing much better than I would have guessed, to be honest. We're playing Streets of Rage 1. I had said last week, and I think in all the promotional stuff for the show, I said Streets of Rage 2. I don't have Streets of Rage 2. I got Streets of Rage 1. Who knew? So this is what we're doing. I am here to give you advice. I think I know a few things. I've been around. Not like, come here, you yellow so-and-so, pink hair, mister. So I think I might be able to help you if you have questions, if you find yourself in a dilemma, in a conundrum, in a pickle, as it were. I would say I would generally not advise you to solve your problems the way that this particular person is, by filling the streets with rage. You thought you'd sneak up on me, and you were incorrect, sir. Guess again, hotshot. Oh, you have a knife? That's adorable. I kick you. You know what they say, never bring a knife to a fist fight? Oh, I just threw it at nothing. So here's a piece of advice I was thinking about the other day. This is a conversation I was having. It's easier to be nice than to be mean. And I think, I definitely had a phase in my younger days when I thought that being nice to everybody was meant you were stupid because you weren't filtering, you weren't being, what's the word I'm looking for? Not judgmental. You weren't thinking critically because you're just nice to everybody. But that's a shitty way of looking at the world. You should be nice to everyone. It's easier to be nice than it is to be mean. It's just it's easier to tell the truth than it is to lie, because then you got to keep track of all the lies. I don't know what that was I just got. So just be nice. Give people a break. And if someone wrongs you, then you have a right to seek justice, and sometimes that's the right thing to do. But other times, peace is more important than justice. Sometimes. I'm not gonna say all the time, but sometimes it is. So sometimes seek peace instead of justice. That's my catchphrase for my life. Now, once again, this gentleman, 23-year-old ex-cop that I'm playing this game as, does not believe in that, because he is not being a nice person to any of these. Ooh, a pipe. Punch you, I punch you. You punch me. Yeah, so that's one piece of advice I'll give you, is just remember, being nice is easier, and just take it easy. Why you gotta make your life harder than it needs to be? Once again, if you have questions, if you'd like questions about anything, I also want to say, I worked in tech support for most of my adult life. So if you got technical questions, your computer ain't working right, you can ask me that too. I'll do my best to answer, and I can't promise anything, but I will try. I will certainly try to do that for you. I like to help people. That's my calling in life, is to help. Except for, are you juggling, sir? Are you juggling on these streets of rage? What do you think you're gonna do with that? Oh, you're gonna throw it at me? Not likely, buddy. And then I kicked you in the face and you fell over, and then you picked up all your flaming juggling deals. And you just start doing it again. That seems Irresponsible, sir. You, I think, deserve to get punched, is what I say. I punch you. I kicked you. Man, the chat is dead out there tonight. And we're just getting started, though. We've been only doing this for 27 minutes. And the cops killed that guy. Did you see that? They killed him. Cops. Hiya. See, this is the problem that I was avoiding last week, is that I'm focusing on this another juggler. A juggler, really. That's shocking to me. Not just a juggler, but a person juggling fire. And he got me. He got me. And I found some meat in a trash can, and I'm gonna eat it because these are streets of rage, and you don't know when you're gonna get your next. You don't know when you're gonna get your next thing, your next piece of meat. Hey, Fred Undead's there. Hey, Fred. Thank you for using the chat. It's a quiet night, but you know, that's okay. I can see there are I got 3 people following on Twitch. I've only heard from 2. If you're that third person, you don't have to say anything. You can just say hi. You can even, you know, type in like a period and then send it if you want to. Just, you know, acknowledge existence is what I say. So we've got a special guest in the next hour, which is a thing. Let's pause this for a minute. Let's go around the horn and let's see who we got. So we got a few folks on the Twitch, as I can see. And we've got anyone on YouTube? Anyone? We got a couple people on YouTube, it looks like. I mean, I'm sorry, on Facebook. Hi, everybody on Facebook. Thanks for joining. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitch. We're live on YouTube. So I'm getting the chats from all of them all at the same time. I have a lot of technology, and so say hi if you're following. If you have a question, if you're seeking advice of any kind, I can help you with technical support problems. I can help you with relationship problems. I'm not a doctor, but I've been a patient a lot, so I probably can give you some medical advice of the patient nature, probably not from the doctor's perspective. I don't think I'm legally allowed to do that, and I don't know if I should. But it's good to see everybody. Good to see everybody coming by. Why don't we do a question? Let's do a question. I'm looking on my phone to bring up a question. And it is, the question that I have is coming up. And okay, here's one. I'm looking for a short one. Let's see. I already said being nice is easier than being an asshole. That's true. Did I do this one before? I don't think I did. Here's a short one. And once again, this is not a question someone wrote in to the advice stream. I stole it from the internet. Hey, Amir, nice to see you. Good evening, guys. Thanks for joining. Hello. Amir is on Twitch, so thanks. That's the third person. Mystery solved. The third person on Twitch was Amir. Thanks for joining us. If you're new to the show, Amir, this is the advice stream. I am Jeremy International. We're live all over the internet at the moment. This is where I play old video games for an hour. I give advice. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. You can also use the contact form at JeremyInternational.com, and I'll get it right away. I am a knowledgeable person about a lot of things. I know a lot about a couple of things, and I know a little bit about a lot of things, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to read an advice question that I've stolen from the internet. And I'll give you what my take is, but we can discuss. Put in the chat what your take is, and we'll see how it goes. This is a conversation. It's It's a back and forth, you know? So here's the question. About a week ago, my girlfriend of 18 months woke up and seemed angry at me. So I asked her what was up, and she said she had had a dream I had cheated on her with her best friend. I kind of chuckled it off, but 7 days later, she's still distant and cold. And last night we had an argument where she said I didn't respect her feelings as being real despite it being a dream, and to give her space. And well, I think I'm 2 stops from being dumped for a dream. Do I really have to validate this or apologize for my dream self's actions? That's a big one right there for sure. The first thing I thought of is when someone said this is, not that he was right about everything, but, Freud said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes a dream is just a dream, but sometimes it's not. Freud said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, which means sometimes a cigar means something else. And for me, yeah, Amir's saying sometimes dreams can be really traumatic. I agree. I am still haunted by a traumatic dream I had many years ago that it kind of pops back up into the back of my brain every once in a while. I get really sad. I can talk about that more in a minute if anyone's interested. But our brains are these big, complicated machines, and dreaming is sometimes the place where our brains kind of express things that we're having a hard time putting into words. And so the first thing I thought of with this person's question is, what are you doing to make your girlfriend feel like you don't respect her feelings and that she can't trust you? I don't want to say that every dream has a meaning. I definitely don't want to say that because I don't think that's true. But sometimes they do. And this seems like this might be one of those times. This guy said, I'm concerned I'm going to get dumped over a dream. But I think you might get dumped over things you're doing like IRL that cause this dream to happen. And if someone that you care about says that you're not respecting their feelings, that's a pretty big accusation to make. And I think that this guy needs to take a step back and think about what his role in this relationship really is. And maybe he's caused some complicated feelings in his girlfriend that have expressed themselves in this dream. He didn't cheat on her, at least he's saying he didn't cheat on her in real life, but she must be feeling, or is likely feeling, some kind of betrayal or suspecting some amount of dishonesty or disrespect. And I think that's what I'm reading in this. I'll put a cap on that and say only sometimes is a cigar just a cigar. Other times it's a representation of a penis. That's what Freud's whole thing was about. He was wrong about a lot of stuff, but I think he was right that dreams sometimes mean something and we should take them seriously. I had a dream years ago. I think maybe it was before I met my wife, the person I'm married to now, where I had been in love, and this dream person that had no specific features. It was just this woman that I was in love with, and we had a kid, and the kid was the thing that I had felt like a strong connection to this kid in my dream, obviously before I had a kid, before I got married. And then I woke up and this person that I was in love with and this kid were gone. And I mourned. I was heartbroken. It was so, it was traumatic for me, for sure. And I'm still kind of haunted by this dream family. I guess that was, that could have been my subconscious saying, you're ready to do this kind of situation. You're ready to make this kind of leap in your life. And then not too long after that, I did. And here I am. I got a kid and I'm married and things are pretty great. Things are pretty great most of the time. Startrek says, and I know Startrek real good. Startrek says on Twitch, dreams are important, that they know that feeling. And I know we've talked Startrek before about Jung and how you're Jung You're a big fan of him, and his work was a lot about dreaming too. I'm having another glass of wine. But that's it. That is it for me tonight. Cool. All right. Well, that was one advice question. I'm just checking around to see if we got anybody else popping in, popping out. A little bit going on the Facebook, and not a lot on the YouTubes yet. That's fine. This is still the first hour. You know, this is like the warm up hour, for sure. But we've got a special guest in the second hour. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to take a break, and then when we come back after the 10 minutes, we'll have our special guest. Here's something else I wanted to talk about today. I have an album of the week. We did that for a little bit, and then we stopped, and I'm bringing it back. My album of the week is United by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. If you've heard songs off this album before, even if you've never heard it before, this album is so good. It's perfect. There's not a song that you want to skip, and it just has this really positive amount of energy and like love. And this album kind of got me some spoons back. I listened to a chunk of this before I went live tonight, and it kind of jazzed me up. So good. If you haven't heard it all the way through, you should, because it is delightful. It is a blast, and you've heard songs, at least one or two, off of it, even if you've never heard the album before. So that's United by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. I don't know what year that came out. It probably says somewhere on the cover. I don't see it. But you should listen to that, and it will, if it doesn't make you happy, it'll make you less sad. That's a guarantee I can give you. And if it doesn't, you might want to see a doctor. So I'm gonna finally take out this juggler fellow here, and then we're gonna take a little break. And when we come back, we'll have our special guest, and I'm excited, and you should be too, because we don't have any lame guests on this show. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Why are you juggling? It makes me so angry. And also, why are you so fast? And now this guy's juggling axes, which I feel like is even less responsible. No, that's probably safer than, we got a boss battle. We got a boss battle, everybody. Why is he so tall? I'm in concentration mode. Hold on. Amir says, and then I go and spoil it all by saying something stupid. Oh, yes. I love that song so much. I think it's all covers, or it's mostly covers, but boy, this album's good. Amir, you just writing that in there that cheered me up a little bit more. It's so good. That whole record is amazing. And I hope, these are sometimes dark and stressful times for all of us. But if you can listen to some music that kind of gives you a little reprieve, you should. If you can beat up a digital, shockingly tall guy with, looks like he's got claws, then do that too. If that makes your life a little better. I'm not really hurting anyone. It's just a game. But I'm... Uh-oh. Do I got one more? Is it game over? It's game over. I gotta continue. Can I get the knife? Cops are gonna help me out again. Cops help me out. Even though I'm an ex-cop. I was a cop for 6 months because I'm like 23. But they helped me out anyways. I did it, guys. I did it. I don't think this game has a save state. But I could be wrong. Oh, boy. Ooh, now I'm on the beach. Beach of Rage. Oh, why did this happen? I get it. Thank you, police. Thank you. It's just distracting from the gameplay. I don't know if you should just be shooting rockets on the beach. But boy, this music, right? Baseball bat. That's a strange way to hold a baseball bat, right? I don't know a lot about baseball, but I don't think that's how people hold baseball bats in general. Come on, that's right. If anyone in the chat is a fan of this style game, like a brawler, just like a button mashing, walking around, beating up fellas, tell me what your favorite, another really good game of this style is the Scott Pilgrim video game. So good. I think they recently put that out, re-released that on the Switch, and that game's so good. If you like Scott Pilgrim and you like video games, is there anyone that isn't both of those things? I don't know. Thank you. Whip lady. So is it like a gang of ladies in red outfits with whips that just kind of walk up and down the beach? Is that? I mean, we've all been to a beach like that, right? Amir says, I used to play Ninja Turtles on the Super Nintendo when I was a kid, and it was a bit like this, but with ninjas instead of baddies. Yeah, the Super Nintendo Ninja Turtle games were all really good. There were a couple for the original Nintendo that were pretty good too. Man, Ninja Turtles, it's shocking to me that still, that franchise like persists. I'm glad it does, because I love some Ninja Turtles. I just saw a trailer. There's a new Ninja Turtle movie in the makes, and it's that just seems like it was such a 90s thing, but they still doing it. Those Ninja Turtles ain't going away. Oh, cops are gonna help me out again. Just shooting missiles on the beach, police. Is that your definition of public safety? Serve and protect by shooting rockets on the beach? Hiya! I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't like these yellow fellas personally, in the yellow outfits. They do the slip and slide, and I don't care for it. Oh man, you know what I just got vibes for? Kung Fu for the original Nintendo. God, that's a hard but good game. Maybe I'll try that next week. I think I can set up my Nintendo and do that. I think I just decided that's what we're doing next week, is Kung Fu for the NES, for the NES. That's gonna be, I think I can make that work, I'm pretty sure. And that'll be a real hoot. Thank you, officer. You said you didn't want to come around here anymore, but here you are. Oh no, he held me. He gave me a hug. The Ninja Turtles arcade game, also the four player cabinet, is also a classic of this genre. Of this particular. Okay. So I'm well, I'll go for a little bit longer. Now I'm gonna wrap it up. Okay. So what have we learned tonight so far? First hour. We talked about it's easier to be nice, which I agree. A lot of people think that being nice is means that you're not thinking critically all the time, or like you're a pushover, but I disagree. Always err on just being nice. Be nice, it's easier. Everybody else is trying to be an asshole. Being nice is edgy. We talked about sometimes dreams are windows into our subconscious, and we should take a dream seriously. Now, sometimes dreams are nonsense, but a lot of the time, Dreams are telling us something true about us and helping us figure out, our brains are these big like AR machines. They're like the holodeck on Star Trek. They're always trying to simulate things. That's why we invented imagination. If you're having a dream, especially about someone specific that you know, and it's leaving you not feeling so great, ask yourself why that is. Maybe have a conversation about it, because dreams are sometimes helpful for us to understand what's going on in the deep recesses of our minds. We also talked about Kirkland Signature Pinot Grigio. I'm 3 glasses in, but that's it for me tonight, and it's been over like the course of 2 hours. It's pretty good. It was cheap. It's a product of Italy, like some of my favorite things in the world are. And we've talked about all that. Oh, we also talked about wasabi flavored peas, and the ingredients definitely say that it's horseradish and yellow and blue food coloring to make it green, which is fine. I do not have a problem with that. In fact, I would say that real authentic wasabi, like from Japan, is kind of a little too mild for me. It just kind of doesn't hit the way that horseradish does. I think I prefer, and it's cheaper too. I prefer real horseradish over wasabi. I think I've only ever had real wasabi once or twice though, because it's expensive and it's not very common in the U.S. Most of the time, what you're getting is horseradish with blue and yellow food coloring in it. Cool. All right. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. And when we come back, we'll have our special guest, journalist and podcaster, my personal dungeon master, Jared Rizzi, will be on the show. And we're going to get into all kinds of stuff. Before I go, just as a reminder, this is the Advice Stream. I'm Jeremy International. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. If you want to seek advice, you can go to JeremyInternational.com, use the contact form. You can also use the chat. I get live chat coming in from all 3 of those previously mentioned streaming services. But if you'd rather keep it a little more anonymous, JeremyInternational.com. You do not have to put in a real email address. You can make something up. And I'll get that question pretty quickly. Maybe I can help you out. I'm pretty good at helping people. I think I have a lot of lived wisdom, if that's the right word, and maybe I can help you with a conundrum, with a problem that you have. I bet I could. Give me a shot. All right, but we're gonna take a 10-minute break. I will see you in 10, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. Welcome back, everybody. Hello, this is the Advice Stream. I am your host, Jeremy International. I have with me here a very good friend, Jared Rizzi. Jared Rizzi, if you don't know Jared, everybody, Jared is I'm reading Jared's bio as Jared wrote it for me because that you can't get better than that. National radio broadcaster, host of At the Table podcast, really good podcast if you're into politics. Are you still doing those live? I'm guessing you're not doing those live. No one's doing anything live still.
I stopped doing live stuff right when the pandemic started,
Yeah,
and
me too.
it was really sad because I was doing almost weekly. I think it was weekly for a while, events in, downtown DC, bars and restaurants. Um and we had crowds. Like we
Yeah,
actually were building momentum, and then like so many other things. Half the places that I was performing in have since shuttered, let
yeah.
alone, I mean, and again, I don't have to tell you that, and certainly anybody who's had their finger on the pulse of either entertainment or hospitality, like everything has been hosed for so long. But it's just, I can't wait to actually get back out there, and that's what I'm really excited to do.
Me too. Man, I miss being in front of an audience more
Yeah.
than I ever thought I could miss a thing that's not a person. And yeah, the pandemic's made that hard. I also want to add in, I want to finish your bio because you were so nice to write it and it's beautiful. Former White House press correspondent for SiriusXM Radio through Obama and Trump. And you met Barry once, right?
You know what?
I call him Barry.
So I've got like, so let me just say this. We neither of those two administrations was there a lot of like intimate back and forth with the presidents
Mm.
for two very different reasons. But I was never prominent enough to have kind of a one-on-one relationship with Obama, and I never would have wanted a one-on-one relationship with Trump. And so no, we had, like, kind of glad handing moments.
Yeah.
Some of my absolute favorite moments were ones where we just got to be in like close proximity, but that not a story's worth, unfortunately, which is unfortunate.
I miss President Obama. I almost didn't vote for him the second time, truth be told, because at that point I felt like the most important issue to me was
Mitt Romney's candidacy.
was Guantanamo, and I
Hmm.
felt like he had let me down in that regard. And looking back at being like that's the thing that really upset me in a president seems very naive by today's standards, unfortunately.
I think it is good to acknowledge the privilege that we kind of sit on. Like you and I are both, we present as, you know, white dudes, cishet, just going through life with as much privilege as two people with, kind of on the sliding scale of chronic ailments can possibly be.
Yeah,
And the idea of having those deal breakers
yeah,
is incredibly privileged, right? Because for people for whom those rights and freedoms are never guaranteed, the idea that we would kind of toss them around, and so I look back at myself from those years and previous, and I'm just blown away by the idea that I would be as moderate as I was.
yeah.
I mean, I went from like Republican haircut, middle of the road kind of guy to, this haircut, and as close to being Marxist as my
You've
as
been
my home ownership allows. It's
you've
like,
been radicalized, is what you're saying.
I mean, the world has changed around me, but it's also me just waking the fuck up, right? Like that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's gotten a lot harder to be naive and ignorant if you're paying attention in the last
Yeah.
uh several years. Yeah,
And
like
I don't,
in those days, like just to imagine like someone told me 10 years ago that half of the voting public in America kind of doesn't really want to have a democracy anymore. It would have blown my mind. But in looking back, I'm not sure that they ever really wanted to have a democracy. I just think they got really bad at lying about it.
I mean, plenty of people wanted a democracy when it was doing everything they wanted and when it was run mostly by when they were in the majority.
Yeah.
I mean, and then that's the weirdest part about being in our democracy right now, is that we are seeing what's happening when the majority is both losing power but also just literally dying off. I mean, these are people who are just falling off the cliff of old age, will never return. And I think for many of them, and this isn't really, I know, like your family, but for a lot of people, they have watched their position in this kind of white Christian hegemony and just why, and they're also, I think about the and this is way more political than I know that you've got with other folks, so I'm sorry to like put my own like stamp on this, but like I think about, by their own standards, so many of these people have failed so utterly to pass on the values that they say they hold dear. If you are a, evangelical, white, Republican, and your kids hate you and never want to speak to you, and there's a lot of that
Yeah.
out there, right? You have just failed
Yeah.
so utterly, and you are going into the twilight years of your life
With
knowing
nothing.
you failed.
Yeah. And you don't like for me, you're a relatively new parent, and so am I. And for me, like thinking about my kid growing up and being like, I don't want to have anything to do with you, that's like a worst case scenario to me. And there, I read, I'm sorry, just I'm sharing some comments coming through. StartRec on Twitch says it's just as bad when it's your sibling. And StartRec, I know you and I know your situation, and it's I read a lot of kind of my origin story. I don't think I've said this before for doing this show, is I've gotten really into reading lots of advice columns, and I disagree with the answers that are given by like the professional writer a lot. So that's kind of what's gotten me, given me the idea to do this show. And I see these questions all the time, like for the advice column in the Washington Post and on Slate and all over the place, in New York Times, where there's some boomers saying, my kids won't talk to me anymore and I don't know what to do about it. They're ungrateful, they're ingrates, and they don't care. Right. And I said one offhanded thing, and they never ever say what the thing is that they said. I said one offhanded thing years ago and they won't talk to me anymore. So what am I supposed to do? And I'm always want to be like, what did you do? Like, this is you. This is a choice you made to alienate your children. And I know it's not always that simple. And life is hard. And I can see, as a parent, I can see the pitfalls that people can make when they're raising their kids. And I really hope I never fall into those, but I can see it as a thing. It's an easy mistake that people can make. There's so many mistakes you can make.
Well, and we will screw up in ways that we haven't even countenanced yet.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like, our kids are going to come to us, and there's going to be something, and we will find ourselves being kind of recalcitrant in a way that we weren't even anticipating. They'd be like, well, I really want a hologram on my arm, and be like,
or like, this is my robot boyfriend and you can't say no, and it'll blow my mind. It'll make me uncomfortable because I don't think people should date robots. Like, but that's me being closed-minded.
We know you've watched movies where robots are well, anyway. I think one of the things that I think about a lot, and I don't know if you grew up in a household where apologies were frequent. I don't think you did. I apologize more to my kid in a day than my parents did in our lives. And to me, that is going to be, it's already setting up a different kind of relationship, one that is just more honest, more vulnerable, more sincere. And I think, I think about the way that our parents were raised and the way that their parents were raised. And there was this real sense of like, never let anyone know your vulnerabilities, never let anyone know your weaknesses. And that is absolutely fine in a world where there are those kinds of dangers. But the biggest danger a lot of us are going to face as we get older and as society becomes more atomized and more is isolation. and we can help contribute to the deficit, or I'm sorry, to the to eliminating isolation by being earnest and sincere. And that's what I try to do with my kid every single day. And do I fail most days? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I keep trying? Yes.
I think there's a lot of things to be scared and a lot of things to be sad about the times we find ourselves in. But the focus on mental health and like being able to be honest with yourself about your feelings and honest with other people about your feelings is really amazing. And of course, that's not something that everyone in planet Earth or everyone in America is going through, but it's something that a lot of people are. And I really value the mental health journey that I've been on for the last many years now. And I always say, if someone came up to me and said, I'm about to become a father, I'm about to become the parent that isn't pushing the kid out of my body, what am I, that's shorthand for father, is shorthand for that. Like, what advice do you have for me? And I would always answer that by saying, you need to start right now by taking care of yourself and finding out what your particular struggle and your particular traumas, and everybody has one, is, and learning how to manage that. You got to do it real fast. If you just found out you're going to be a parent today, then maybe you got 7 or 8 months or whatever. You got a lot of work to do, but that should be your first priority. Is you need to get your house in order, because it's hard to do. And I know I don't know a lot of people in our socioeconomic relative age bracket that are parents, because most of my friends aren't having kids. But of all of the ones that are, I feel like you and I are really aligned. I think we're in a similar place about where our priorities are. And we're also both at home a lot these days with our kids.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. My parents did the best job that they could do given what they had and the role models that they had. My dad had to work all the time. He wasn't around a lot, but when he was great. And I think I'm so lucky that even when I have a job, and hopefully I will again soon, that I'll be able to be around so much more for that, because it's important. It's important to do.
Well, you talked about, a lot of the people in your circle don't have kids. I think for me, it's kind of, there's like three groups. There's people who are doing exactly what you and I are doing, which is they're having kids, but they're in their 30s and 40s and they're having kids for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's a very small group. It's like you, me, and like a half dozen other families. We've kind of self-selected into this weird group. And there are plenty of people that both of us know. And I would say it's probably, a similar size, proportion of the, for me as it is for you, of people who were never going to have kids and they never wanted to have kids, and that's totally, that's been their choice for a long time. And I think because we had ours later in life, there are more of those folks around.
Yeah.
But then, and I think this is bigger for me than it is for you, but there are a lot of people who like did their kid having like 10 years ago, and we're still close. And I look at them and I laugh sometimes because I'll check in with them and I'll be like, what did you do when this happened? And the answer is usually like, A, I don't remember because that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or B, like, I did it and I really screwed it up. And I think
my kid's a serial killer now, so.
Well, yeah, and it's like, and there's a Netflix special about them or something. I think there is of all the detriments, and those detriments are coming. Like in 20 years, when we're both decrepit, we will be upset that we.
Hopefully that's 20 years. I hope it's not.
Well,
sooner.
yeah. For me, 20 years. You about 20 minutes.
6 months.
Yeah. When we're we will look and those things will catch up with us. But I do think that like being more fully formed mentally and emotionally is going to help us now.
Yeah.
And I also think that for thousands of years humans had the decency of being gone when they're, we talk, the whole show is about advice. We talk about like what we're going to pass on. uh there's a huge there's a huge glut of unsolicited advice in our culture that's terrible and mean spirited and bad. And I think that we will have the decency to be not as big a presence in our children and grandchildren's life because we'll be gone, but in a way that comports with all but the last like 150 years of human society.
Yeah.
Like, and that may be me just spinning around the fact that I'm, like cholesterol gonna get me, but like but I also think that, like, at some point people just what value am I going to provide? I think I have a pretty decent estimation of what my value is going to be in my golden years, and it's not like I don't need to be on a pedestal. This is
Yeah.
this is the only place where people are asking for my advice.
Uh, that's really interesting. I didn't think about it that way. I want to go back for a minute and say that StartRec on Twitch said serial killer LOL, but spelled cereal like Cheerios. And I will say that my kid kills some cereal if we're defining a serial killer that way.
So we went to Costco the other day, and
I'm drinking Kirkland Pinot Grigio tonight. So good for you. Costco's great.
We have, I want to be clear, we have the Cheerios at Costco come in like a square box. It is a weird, they've like fit them in so that it's like several gallons of Cheerios in these boxes, and we already have several boxes, but we needed more Cheerios because my kid, since Valentine's Day, has loved anything vaguely heart-shaped, and so they had heart-shaped Cheerios, so we had to get more Cheerios. So I have enough Cheerios until like 2027, basically.
I eat a lot of breakfast cereal too, so we tend to burn through it pretty fast here. What you said before is interesting though, because I kind of stress out sometimes about being an old dad. I'm in my mid-40s and our kid is almost 3. So when she graduates from college, I'm gonna be like real old. Or like when she graduates from high school, even I'm gonna be unambiguously elderly. And that stresses me out sometimes. We had a really good point that up until not too long ago, that people live shorter lifespans. So like when a kid is in their 20s is the general time when their parents would die anyways. So that's a good point. That kind of gives me a little bit less anxiety about being, and I got a lot of health stuff, and I'm certainly going to live as long as I can. You can have my life when you pry it from my cold dead hands.
Yeah.
But I mean, statistically speaking, I ain't gonna be 110.
Well, but I also think, I mean, look, I don't need to tell you. You have been upfront both in this forum, but in every conversation you and I have ever had about health stuff, and you're both your open-eyed realism about it, but also a lot of your anxieties about it, right? Like you and I've had the full spectrum of that conversation, and I think about, again, kind of trying to hit the brief of advice, like literally I have done what you've just described doing, where I'm like, oh, when this happens I'll be that old.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
I'll be that old. And just from being alive, but also from dealing with some of your health stuff, that none of us is guaranteed to even hit those benchmarks.
Yeah, that's true.
And as awful as that is, like, I wouldn't want to spend one moment like worrying about it, because if I'm there, you know what, I'm going to be glad to be there. And if I'm not there, then I hope that whatever I've done up till then has left a mark, which is frankly how I try to leave every really, I mean, and so, my kid is 3, just like a little bit older than your kid, and I think about this, like, there's still nothing that I've done that they're going to like actively remember. So I'm still playing with house money. Like, this is good.
Right? There's nothing you can screw up so bad yet that'll have a lasting impact.
Well, they can't like directly describe it to a therapist in 20 years. Like they can be like, oh, I have this vague feeling that my dad was playing a lot of video games, but like there's not going to be like this, and that could be for you or for me, by the way.
I vaguely remember him really trying to get me into Donna Summer, and I wasn't into it, and then that's all I can remember about him. All right. So, as always, with all of my special guests, I ask for you to bring two things. One is something that makes you happy
Mhm.
in your current life, and the other is a piece of advice that you have been given, whether it was good or bad or silly or ridiculous, a particularly memorable piece of advice. You can pick
Mhm.
which one of those things you want to do first.
Okay. Well, I mentioned Valentine's Day and hearts, so let me. I have this is for show and tell in front of me. So we're having this conversation mid March, almost exactly a month ago was Valentine's Day. My kid made a lot of Valentines. Now I know a lot of people, if you're in like preschool, kindergarten, early grades, you probably hate this stupid thing, but this was their first time doing this with at all basically, and we did like 90-second cards. All of them are one folded piece of construction paper, one or more glued on construction paper pink heart, and a message that is usually like 1 to 10 words. Like, this is real minimalist. I
Uh,
do have one for your kid. We forgot to mail it. I'm so sorry. This is how I'm telling you.
well, I'll
uh
interrupt you for a second and say that our kid knows nothing about Valentine's Day because she goes to preschool at a synagogue and they don't do no Halloween, no Valentine's Day. I love Halloween. We do Halloween at home,
That's
but
right, because it's Saint Valentine's Day. Like,
yeah, having a
that's
little
not your
break
guy.
from that stuff for a little bit, I think I appreciate. But I'm sure that sooner or later we'll be doing Valentine's Day. But she does
Yeah.
she doesn't know. She doesn't know about Valentine's Day yet.
So, well, first of all, congratulations on avoiding one of the stupidest crafting nonsense. So let me. I have. This is not one thing that I'm going to show you. I'm literally going to show you these until you tell me to stop, because
Okay.
I brought a stack. So
Oh my
here's an
God.
example of one of them.
Are
Now,
they cutting those
again,
hearts out on their own, or are you helping
no,
them?
no, I'm cutting. All the cutting and
Oh my
writing is
God.
me.
Yeah. No.
Because
Thank you so much for confirming with me everything that I suspected about. But they spent so much time on that. That's
okay,
sweet.
okay, so then there's this one with one no heart on the outside, lots of red, a lot of red.
Hmm.
There's one upside down heart on the inside, no message, and then this one
Is
here
that a
with a heart.
threat? I think that's a threat.
This is a threat, and I feel like it's really that's the one that, so there's a lot in that where like the hearts aren't quite oriented the right
Hmm.
way. Then we get to some of the messages. Now this one has three upside down hearts, and it says poopy. It
But
says poop.
I mean, your kid didn't write that. You wrote that.
I
But they
wrote
told
that,
you
but they
to.
they dictated the message, and
Okay.
then um we are we are on the successful side of potty training. Like, we are over the hump, and
Congratulations.
we are doing really well. There's we basically have a lot of discussion about Rira is their stuffy that they really love, and Rira always poops on the potty.
Good for
um
Rira.
now Rira has never, that I've seen, actually taken a shit, but
It'd be weird if a stuffed animal did. I would be disturbed.
so again, just a lot of,
Yeah.
just you can see my influence with like the Stussy S, like just trying to make these a little bit more visually interesting.
Uh huh.
I look, I'm telling you, like, what this segment's gonna end when you're gonna tell me this is gonna end, because like this is just, I have the stack of these.
I have very much the opposite problem. That I'll go ahead and stop you there. I've seen enough hearts. Thank you.
Okay, hold on, wait, there's one message that I want to make sure. I said I was gonna stop when you told me to, but like, now I just need to, like, I was gonna end with one, which is just this one, which is a black card, just um poopy.
Poopy.
Yeah,
I mean, you could
that's
edit those though, Jared. You don't have to do. You have the ability to edit what your kid says. You know.
and then just
Oh boy.
like,
Yeah, I'm glad
uh
we've missed that one so far.
so can I just tell you, I wrote it because um every day we make a couple more cards,
Uh huh.
and because they loved doing it so much. St. Patrick's Day is coming up, another one that the synagogue's probably not going
Yeah,
to
we don't do that
mention.
either. We don't do that
um
either.
I was like, do you want to make clovers? Do you want to do other shapes, squares, triangles, whatever? No, we only want hearts. Do you want other color hearts? No, we only want pink hearts. Um, I just love it so much because I have decided, and this is just my parenting style, that whatever they're excited about, I'm going to be excited
Yeah,
about.
yeah. No, I
And
respect that. I respect that.
so they're excited about making arts and crafts Valentine's Day cards. We're going to make Valentine's Day arts and crafts Valentine's. I mean, I love it. I genuinely do. I think the best gift I can give my kid, but also, and this is whether it's my marriage relationship, my friendships, everything, the best gift I can give beyond my physical presence and my emotional presence is just my unabashed enthusiasm for whatever the other person's doing. And just because my kid is 3 years old doesn't mean I'm gonna give them any less. And that's that.
I
So I enjoy it because it reminds me of what they love and my commitment to making an absolute, you know.
boy. Uh we have the opposite problem with making cards. My dad's birthday is coming up. And so I printed out like big like open letters that says happy birthday Papa. That's what my kid calls my dad, on a piece of paper, and I was thinking she'd like color it in and we'd mail it, but she knew that if we when we're done, we were going to put it in an envelope and we're going to walk to the mailbox, which means she gets to put on her sparkly rain boots because it's been rainy here. And that's all she wanted to do was put on the boots. She understood that that was what was going to happen when the card was done. So I sit it in front of her, and she gets a crayon and makes one line on it and says mailbox now. And that's all. So my dad's getting this card that has almost no effort on it at all because I couldn't get her to do anything else.
I mean, great.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's, I mean, and hopefully, and again, this goes to like the generational divide, but hopefully he will enjoy the story. If
yeah,
not, like, because he's gonna receive a card with like one pen mark on it or
yeah,
whatever. People like, what the hell is this?
yeah.
Doesn't
I'll
my
need
kid
to
have a
make sure that
crayon?
I warn them up front, and I'll tell them the story. Okay, cool. So that's something that makes you happy. That made me happy. Uh, like I don't know if I had words for it before, but I think that's my favorite thing about you is that sense of enthusiasm that you have for everybody in your life. That's wonderful, and you're a super dude. You're a real righteous dude because of that. I commend you.
I feel the same way about you, and more importantly, I just try to bring that wherever I go. So hopefully, I hope that people feel it because I really do try.
I think people do. I certainly do. So what's your notable piece of advice you'd like to share? And then when you're done with that, by the way, I've got a couple questions that I've stolen from the internet that
Great.
if you're up for it, we can talk about together,
Yeah.
and maybe we can get some people to participate in the chat. Actually, before you share the notable
Yeah.
piece of advice, let me do my little spiel here. This is the advice stream with Jeremy International. I'm Jeremy International. We are live on Twitch. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're here with our special guest. I'm going to truncate your bio and say journalist and podcaster Jared Rizzi. How's that?
I'll take it.
Fellow dad. And we're talking about all kinds of stuff. We're having a good time. If you would like to seek advice, you could just throw it in the chat on any of those three places I said. I get a live feed from all three chats all the time. If you'd like to keep it more anonymous, you can go to JeremyInternational.com. It's spelled the way you'd expect it to, no dots or dashes. And there's a contact form there that you could use. I get those also immediately. And then my buddy Jared and I can kind of do our best to help you out. I'll speak for myself and say that I'm in my mid 40s. I've lived a lot of life in that time period. I think I have some knowledge, some lived experience. I think I could probably help you out if you got a question. I'm not great at financial stuff, but I think I'm good at everything else. I'll do my best. I also worked for almost 20 years as a technical support specialist. So I don't know if your computer's not working the right way. Let me know. I might be able to help you with that too. I'll take anything.
Gosh.
All takers are welcome. If you are,
Am I supposed to help with the advice? Because I feel like I have not lived as much life as you have.
You can chime in anytime you want, Jared, and if you're going off the rails, I'll let you know. How's that?
Okay.
I give you that guarantee. If you're enjoying the show and you'd like to send a tip, there are also links at JeremyInternational.com. You can send me a couple of bucks in PayPal or Venmo. I just want to remind everyone I do not currently have a job. I was laid off as part of the big tech disaster that has affected almost everyone I know that works in technology.
Yeah. At
We're
least 5 or 10 people that I know. So
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be landing. My ship's coming in any day now. But boy, wouldn't it be nice if this show just paid me enough money that I just do this? I mean, I do it more than once a week, of course. Um, I've been thinking about doing a live stream like during the day where I'm just job hunting. And other people that are in a similar situation that are looking for jobs, you can come in and we'll talk about it. We'll commiserate. We'll give each other advice, although certainly that's not something I could give advice on because I've been looking real hard for months and got nothing. But maybe you could give me advice at that time. If that's something you think you might want to do, let me know. StartReg says, "I want that for you, Jer." Oh, thanks. Only the real OG friends call me Jer, and StartRec is one of those. I'm not gonna say StartRec's real name out loud, but you know who that is, Jer, and I'll tell you who it is when we're not streaming.
I'm not quite in the OG circle because I still do Gerb. That's like
Gerb, Jer,
the
Germ,
second ring of the tree is Gerb. I feel like.
Jerry. Those are all what the OGs got for
Okay,
me.
can I just say as another like Jerry is something that I absolutely hate, and I hated it before like Parks and Rec. I hated it before Rick and Morty. I
Uh-huh.
hated it before like it's just never
There's
been.
not
It's
any good Jerrys in
there's
pop culture, is
there's
there?
not a lot of good Jareds. I mean, like there's the sandwich rapist.
Yeah,
There's
he's
the
terrible.
nepotism
Oh
baby
man, if only he had
Trumper.
only raped sandwiches, then he wouldn't be that terrible.
There's like the jewelry guy. Like there's not a lot of
Yeah,
good
he went to
Jareds.
Jared's.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, Jeremy is mostly neutral. I feel like.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
Jared like has a strong I'm also like I'm at the I'm at the kind of cultural apex of Jared's, so there just won't be any more, and I'm always gonna feel personally responsible for that, even though
I understand that. I understand that.
he's a
I've met.
flashlight
I
baby.
don't know. I'm not registering a lot of Jareds in my mind, but every Jared I've met's been totally cool. You know, the coolest name, the highest ratio of like every person I've met with this name has been totally rad is Herbs. You don't meet a lot of Herbs, but every Herb I ever
Herb,
met's been a hoot Herb,
interesting.
like Herbie Hancock.
Well, I always knew that you were a fan of Herb. I just didn't know it was the name as well. That
Fan
was
of Herb sounds like let's like a sex code or something.
that's I think you hanky code. It's like a green. It's a green out of the back left pocket. Like that's
I'm gonna interrupt us here just to share. StartRec is floating the chat all by himself right now.
appreciate.
StartRec goes on, and StartRec is on Twitch. Says, haha, it's all good. I met Jared once and I was drunk and we had a political argument. Sorry, dude, you were probably right. How do you apologize to a Sirius XM radio host at a cultural apex for being drunk and stupid? Well, I can tell you, StartRec, that I've seen you drunk. I don't know if I've ever seen you stupid, but I wasn't part of that conversation, so I don't know if I should weigh in any more than that.
I mean, the worst thing to do would be to say that it didn't matter because it does matter. But like, I think that politics, as long as you don't get to the point where politics is a game and you're arguing for like just as a dick measuring contest, I think then you're fine. But like, I don't remember a conversation I've ever had where I've ever felt like the other person didn't walk away. Like I try really hard to leave every campsite better than I found it.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, one of the things that I've had a really, we're having a lot of conversations with people, and I'm like, okay, how do I make sure that Jeremy and I are talking about something really important? that these moments are really important. Like, okay, we're having this conversation, we're doing this, but like there are a lot of important things to talk about. I never want it to be like shoehorned in, but like I want to make sure that we talk about important things, and we're going to. But it's like, politics. It can't just be for people's, I don't know, just ego, because then you're just playing the game of where it doesn't matter, and that's how people like terrible candidates get elected, because people are just they're playing with fake money, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's not real.
I get that. Startrek says as a reminder that it was a Bernie 2016 times. Here's my take on political conversations while we're talking about it. Uh, and this might come off as being a little bit of a rant, so I apologize in advance. I I don't care about politics anymore. I'm not really interested in having political conversations. I think the big concepts that are dividing us as a country are not political arguments; they're moral arguments. And I think that right wing movements throughout the history of right wing movements get a lot of traction because they take moral moral debates and they try to phrase them as political debates. In a democracy, we should be open to a lot of different sides of political questions because we need to be informed to vote responsibly. But in a moral society, there's really only one or two correct answers. And if you have a fundamentally immoral agenda with your political stance, then it benefits you to collude those two concepts. I'll give you an example. Does the government have a right to force people to get vaccinated in the middle of a global pandemic? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't care, honestly. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I hope that it does. If it doesn't, the government should in the middle of a crisis. But that's not really the question. That's not really the debate we're having, or at least the debate we were having during the global pandemic. The debate we were having is whether people should choose to get vaccinated. And that is a moral question. You have an obligation to do what you can to protect your neighbors, to protect your family, to protect the people in your community. That's not a political issue at all. That's a moral issue. And and we never had that conversation as a country. We only ever had the conversation about whether the country can force people to do it, whether the government can force people to do it. And I don't know. I don't care about the question whether the government should require people to. I only care about whether people understand that they have an obligation to do so. Does that make sense? I've had 4 glasses of wine.
It does make sense. I don't agree. Is and so just coming from my, I don't want to give Star Trek any Star Trek
Start
any
wreck.
I it's right in my head and it's wrong out of my mouth, and I'm not going to get it right. It is a moral obligation to take care of poor people, but the reason we have taxes is because people aren't doing that on their own. It's a moral obligation to you know I, I think about the things that the government does because people aren't better, and the
Right.
list is long.
Yeah.
So I do think that politics is going to be the answer to a lot of our problems because we don't have a unified morality, and it's good that we don't have a unified morality, because we have a plural society, that we have a bunch of people who believe different things, who speak different languages, and have different faiths or no faiths, or whatever, and live their lives in different ways. they
Faith no
they
mores.
eat different things, they buy different things, they whatever. um and it, and our politics is what's going to bring those people together. Now, other places, other countries around the world, maybe they have a geography or a history of one kind of people, and they face struggles when they immigration comes in or whatever. But we have this, by definition, plural society, and our politics is the only thing that makes those rules, because we can't decide what one morality is right. I the next big thing for me is probably going to be something like veganism, because as much as I love eating meat, I cannot I cannot justify the harm that both to the planet and
Yeah.
to the lives of you know creatures that can't speak. And so like I look down those lines, and it's like I know what I should do.
Yeah.
And but our morality isn't there. I'm not going to force people to stop eating meat, but I do think that our politics could provide an answer. If we could protect the planet by disincentivizing the cultivation of cattle, we could protect our planet by just changing our subsidies of oil and gas industries, and we could do a lot of things with politics. So I do think politics is the answer. I also think it's the answer because it's being used right now as a cudgel. I mean, the violence that's being done on the queer community, especially the trans community
Yeah.
right now, is unconscionable. And that is not that is a black and white question for a lot of people morally, but they're fucking wrong.
Yeah. And I,
And so like the idea that we're going to solve this with anything other than politics is foolishness.
Sure. I agree with that. I'm not saying that politics doesn't matter. I'm not saying that politics isn't important. Politics is how we bring about change, and we are in need of so much change as a society. I guess and I'm not saying that I'm not gonna vote and not be engaged very much in our democracy. I always have and I always will be. But I guess what I'm saying is the ways that I comport myself in like social situations. If there's like a political, like a legitimate political conversation about something that can only be addressed by politics, I I'm I might not gravitate to that corner of the room where that conversation's having anymore. But if there's a
I
corner of
think
the room where someone's talking about do do people have, does is gender immutable? Do people have a right to express themselves in whatever they want to? That is to me a moral question, and I will absolutely inject myself into that one and stand my ground and defend my friends that don't have chosen to represent themselves in their true nature the way that they want to. Uh, I I mean, I guess that's the thing. Like, what we do about classrooms full of children being murdered with military style assault rifles, how we fix that problem is a political question. The fact that it is a problem and we are obligated to fix it is a moral question. And the fact that half of the voting populace of our country, which is a quarter of the population because so many people don't vote, uh, doesn't seem to think that that's a problem. But then the fact that there's a person that doesn't follow like a strict gender binary, volunteering to read a story to kids in a library, that outrages them. That's something we have to fix. But it doesn't bother me that that same group of kids could be murdered with a large caliber semi-automatic rifle at any time. That's not my problem. That's not a concern that I have. That to me is shocking and keeps me up at night every day.
Well, and you and I have had the conversation about like why are we even raising our kids in the United States of America? I mean,
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
had that
yeah.
that foundational conversation about like this is a bad place to raise kids. Like that's we've fundamentally, and I know that you and I agree on that fundamental question.
Yeah.
So the problem that I have, and this is again as somebody who is a White House correspondent, somebody who is a political reporter, somebody who's was in the Obama and Trump White Houses, somebody who has seen this with a certain level of proximity, enough to both be shocked and appalled by a lot of stuff from the entire political spectrum, but especially from the far right. I know that my best argument, I am not so enamored with my own argument and my own intellect that I think I can flip the people who believe that gender has to be binary, and that we should enforce whether people are shaving their legs and wearing skirts, and or that everyone, that members of Congress should be able to bring guns into their offices and people can have, AR-15s and all that. I'm never going to convince those people, because those are bad people
Yeah.
who I wish would not have as much power in this politics. I'm not going to convince them. I'm not going to flip them. We're never going to have that a few good men moment where they just admit that they're full of shit.
Yeah.
And just expect.
I have that whole monologue memorized, though. We should do that on a future show. I'm not going to do it right now because we're talking about important stuff.
But I do think you actually alluded to the solution, which is there are so many people who have been so jaded and who are so apathetic that they are just sitting out on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I think are reachable. So I do think that there's an obligation not to, and again, this might be a generational thing, because you've got that just enough Gen X where you've got like this kind of like cool apathy. I worry about that, because that is what encourages the sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
That is because apathy is really dangerous when people are being murdered. That is. Yeah.
I am only technically Gen X. I was born in the last possible year you could be born to be Gen X. I feel like I relate to millennials more. I don't think I have apathy about a lot of stuff, like I don't know, like Red Lobster is kind of cool, I guess. Like I don't hate Red Lobster. But generally speaking,
Red Lobster, it's such a choice.
Yeah, I know. I've had some good times at Red Lobster. I'm not going to say great times. But yeah, I don't feel like I necessarily have that. I was talking to a person who's solidly Gen X the other day. I won't say who this person is, but they have a podcast that's getting kind of successful. And they said, I'm worried that some sponsor is going to come in and offer us all this money, and I don't want to sell out. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to sell out? I'll sell out at any time.
That's how you're not. Yeah, now you've proven your millennial status.
If someone is offering to pay you to podcast for a living, you should sell out as fast as you possibly can. I certainly would, and I want to go ahead and go on the record while we are live. If anyone of the four, maybe as many as 6 people watching right now want to pay me to do this, but you want me to do it differently, then you just tell me how, and I'll do it. I'm not going to be a fascist. That's where I draw the line. But anything short of that, cool.
There's going to be some sex stuff. That's all I'm going to say.
Cool, whatever. Everyone's got a price. Mine's cheaper than most. I just don't want to. I'm sick of looking for a job. So if I could do this and make a living, I don't have a lot of scruples about what I need. I have a few, but not a lot.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna need you to show feet, and that's
cool.
That's fine.
Sold. You didn't even give me a dollar amount. All right, we're zipping along. We're getting short on time. We didn't talk about the notable piece of advice you wanted to share with us today, Jared. I also want to say that StartRec has been contributing to the chat a lot. Let's go back and just revisit StartRec's contribution, since there are so few people contributing, and StartRec is a workhorse of the show. StartRec started by saying politics is greater than partisan politics, in my opinion. And you do care, Jeremy. I know you do. I absolutely do. I'm just saying I'm not gonna spend my energy in social places, whether they're virtual or IRL social places, getting up into people's face about what I think are actually political debates, but I will about the moral debates.
Oh, sure. Well, wait, so that is an interesting distinction, because you are now talking about like style. I always feel like the best way you can convince people that your way of life is worth living is to just live it well. And then people will eventually be like, wow, you seem to have a bunch of shit going well, and like, what does that mean? And how does that do? Now, no one's ever asked me that. But I certainly waited for, I'm waiting for someone to be like, you seem like you've got a lot going on. One day I'll let you know. You might be the person who asks.
All right. Good to know. StartRec goes on to say, that they hard agree with what to focus on under the right circumstances, and I'll gravitate to it, and then I'll argue with an XM radio host for no good reason, and then feel embarrassed.
You're carrying this. You're the only one carrying this around,
Yeah.
Rick.
I think that's another just unrelated to what we're talking about. Another really good piece of advice that I've been given before, and I'd like to share with everybody here, is other people are thinking about you a lot less than you think that they are. And all those times you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that, or I did that, or I walked out of the house looking that way and I'm so embarrassed. Almost certainly no one uh, is thinking of that. No one is as big a deal, unless you're like Tom Cruise, and even Tom Cruise like has done ridiculous stuff, and I don't think about it all that much. Now, if you're Howard Dean and you did that, and sunk your political career forever, then that's unfortunate because everyone still thinks about that all the time. And then Startrek also recommends that I try the Bahama Mama at Red Lobster, and it's clear I've never had that if I didn't have a great time. I don't think I have had a Bahama Mama. I do remember many, many years ago, I think it was when I was in college, I got really high and went to Red Lobster, and I remember feeling like the straw and the soda was like this big, and telling everyone about like, look how big this straw is. This is like a really wide gauge straw, and everyone was looking at me like I was insane because that's what happens. Yeah, that's an embarrassing story about myself I just told. I was so obsessed. I feel like I talked about it for an hour, but who knows? I was augmented at the time.
And here's the thing: to tie your own piece of advice to it, no one else who was there that night has ever thought about that.
Probably
that
not. I think about it often, though. I think about it. My memory is that the straw was like this big around, and I was like,
true.
I was really working it.
I feel like I have routinely overestimated girth in my life.
Yeah,
so
I get that. I relate to that.
Yeah.
Star Trek says everything is bigger in Red Lobster except for the lobster. Hi-oh. Okay.
Well, there goes your Red Lobster sponsorship. You almost had it. You almost had it locked in. Skip it. You were going to sell out, and now you can't.
All right, Jared. So what's your noteworthy piece of advice you have for us? We got about 8 minutes left.
So it's kind of a bummer of a anecdote, but I'm gonna riff on it. I was in a therapy session, and let me back up because I know we're short, we're close to the end here.
We can also go over. It's fine. There's no rules.
Yeah, no, but just respecting your time and people like. There's kind of an anecdote that I've seen put in a lot of, or aphorism that's been put out in a lot of places where it's like, don't accept criticism from anyone from whom you wouldn't take advice, right? Like that's a big kind of thing. And this is a version of that. It's kind of how I first and most indelibly learned that lesson, which is I was in a therapy session and I was talking with my therapist at the time about my parents and how I feel like I felt really disconnected from them at the time. And I felt really dissatisfied with a lot of the choices they were making. And over again, I kept saying, they had so many lessons for me and they were always wrong. And the therapist said to me, he says, well, you seem like you have a pretty good moral compass. And I feel like he was trying to like tell me that, maybe I was overestimating their negative impact, right? Like what, but they created you and influenced you. How did that happen? If, obviously they had a lot of input into how you turned out. And yet, obviously you're saying they're all this bad stuff. And so this is my response in that moment was, from a young age, I did the opposite of whatever they were telling me to do. And I think about that from when I was like literally my kid's age, like 3 or 4 years old. The story that my parents told me was that they would tell me to, hit kids back. That was a big, if you were born in the 70s and 80s, you were told to hit kids back.
No, I got that a couple times too.
And I never did. I never did, and I used to have the shit get beaten out of me, and I never wanted to hit kids back, and or when I was older, and they were telling me, here's the people you should date, here's the people you should have friends with, and I never listened, and so I said to them, to him, and my parents are really not great people. I'm not in contact with them, and but I remember saying to him at the time, I literally did from the age of like 3 or 4, I did the opposite.
Hmm.
So I think the advice is your internal compass is good, your internal compass is valuable, and cultivate the trust in yourself as much as you can, because you are going to be with yourself every day of your life,
Yeah.
and you might as well believe that you are worth following, even if that means you are not following anybody else.
Wow.
and
That's
and
good advice.
and it's hard, it's really hard, it's lonely at
Yeah.
times, but I just or just do what I did and do the opposite of what the worst people are telling you what to do, because they they were doing a lot of bad things.
I mean, the best way to learn how to do something is to watch somebody do it wrong.
Right,
Yeah, I believe
right.
in that very much.
Which is why your eventual OnlyFans is going to do really well, because you're going to show people how to do things wrong.
Yeah, well, I'll do the. Oh man, that would be really good. The worst OnlyFans in the world. I wonder what. That's a whole separate show. Uh, you know,
I'm
I
sorry. I really just love the idea of you doing, okay, here's what not to do. And you're just like, kind of like,
like I
and like,
fell over.
and like, yeah, the set's falling over.
Uh,
It's like, it's very like Larry Sanders Show kind of,
yeah, yeah. It's like
production.
Dorf does OnlyFans.
Yeah.
That's a
I
$1 million idea right there. It's
fully
$1 million.
formed in out of our imagination.
Dorf does OnlyFans. Oh man, too bad.
Dorfly fans.
The guy that did Dorf, Tim Conway, is R.I.P. He's no longer with us, because I'd pay real money to see Dorf does OnlyFans. That's such good advice though. I feel like so many people, and there's kind of this like undercurrent of pressure to not look inside yourself for guidance, but instead to look at some external. We spend a lot of time, part of the time for our conversation today, talking about baby boomers, and this is another thing I think about a lot. The whole thrust of the 60s was they kind of thought, people that were young at the time kind of thought they were throwing away the value system of their parents, but then they thought they needed to replace it with something else that was still external from them. Like they got rid of a system and they wanted to replace it with another system, and somehow that turned into like Reaganomics somehow, from the summer of love to a rising tide lifts all ships, or some nonsense about economics. But I think, people in my age and younger, and this might sound like nonsense, but there was another really big cultural movement going on around the time I was born, which, for lack of a better term for it, was punk rock. I'll just call it that, which was really about not replacing a system, throwing out the system and not replacing it with a new one, but figuring it out for yourself. And like that, the big moment, the big revelation from music in that time period, which has been so meaningful to me for so much of my life, is that you don't need to follow the rules. You don't need to practice and learn how to play an instrument in this way to make music that's meaningful to you. And I think that we can talk about that for like moral systems or like worldview systems, is that a system that someone else built for you isn't going to be as good as the one that you figure out for yourself as you're living your life. And I think the boomers missed out on that. And I think it's people that are more or less in my age group and younger, that that understood that. That's all I have to say about that.
I think you just called me punk rock, which no one has ever done in my life before, and I'm just going to take that and run. And even if that's not what you meant, please don't correct me, because I just want to believe that in my soul.
There's this really great book. I'll kind of wrap up on another recommendation. There's this really great book called. Well, there's two books that I'm thinking about. There's one that's called England's Dreaming, and it's like a history from a political and a social comment about the late '70s punk rock movement in England. And there's another book called Please Kill Me, which is like an oral history about the similar movement that happened in the U.S. And just the boldness and the bravery that people in those two kind of separate but sometimes overlapping scenes had about throwing everything away that they had grown up with and not replacing it with anything, but replacing it with what they thought was right for them in the moment. And a lot of those people turned out to be pretty terrible. Like Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols is as right wing as anybody gets, and fuck that guy. But that wasn't always the case for him, and for a lot of those people, and of course a lot of them horribly died from drug overdoses, and Sid Vicious probably murdered somebody. But I don't know where I was going with that. But the idea of throwing away the moral systems of your parents' generation and not replacing it with a new system, but replacing it with what you feel is right while you're living your life, I think is commendable, and hopefully I'm successful at that at least sometimes.
All we can really hope for, right?
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Jared. Do you have anything coming up that we should plug to the crowd, the 4 people watching at home?
There's nothing to plug. Most of what I'm doing these days is taking care of a toddler, working on some podcast projects that are coming down the line, and hopefully we can plug them in the future. But they are, as you know, and as you and I have had a conversation about separately, like there is just there's a lot of the creativity that you spend, and this is the whole separate conversation we could have.
Yeah.
When you have a kid, it does take away a lot, and I think we need to have an acknowledgement of, throughout centuries of creativity, so many of the other people who are doing caregiving were allowing people to write books and write music and to create beautiful things, beautiful art and stuff. And so I think one of the detriments of our more egalitarian society, and certainly our more egalitarian romantic relationships that you and I have, is that we just don't have
Is that no one's
freedom.
making anything?
No one's making anything,
Yeah.
but also, we can respect each other.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
I agree. It used to be really unfair that one partner would do all of the childcare, almost always a woman, and the man would be free to paint and write books and write music or whatever. And now I feel like our egalitarian relationship means that neither of us have the energy. I can certainly speak for my partner as well. Neither of us have the energy to create much, but that's it's better the way that we have it today. I feel like, I don't know, in that getting close to 3 year old phrase where they become a little bit more independent, I'm hoping that I got a little bit more to bargain with as far as getting stuff done. And we're lucky in that our kid usually is asleep by 8 and stays asleep, so that gives us a little bit, not always, especially not the last few days because she's been sick, but hopefully that continues to be the case.
Well, and we will never be able to untangle the pandemic and our kids being kids being born, like all these things. So who knows what it's like to be a new parent without a world global pandemic happening. Certainly not you and me.
No, that's true. All right. Well, thanks for joining, Jared. This was fun. Thanks for contributing, everybody. We will be back. The advice stream will be back next Monday with another game. I haven't decided what yet, though. I'm thinking Kung Fu for the NES, for the Nintendo, because I'm just in a brawler kind of mood now, and that's pretty easy not an easy game, but an easy to manage brawler because you only have 2 buttons. And so we'll be doing some video game next week. We'll have a special guest. I'll get into more of that later. But thanks for joining, everybody. This was fun. I hope we were able to impart some, me and Jared both were able to impart some helpful knowledge to everyone watching out there. Take care of yourselves. Be patient with yourself. And as Jared was saying, trust your own compass to tell you what to do, because you got it. You're doing great, everybody out there. I believe in you. I believe in us.
My friend.
The end. Good night. Have a good night.